All right, ready to dive in. Today, we're dissecting a document about squeezing every ounce of productivity out of work.
That's right. We're talking operational efficiency.
Think of it like a crash course. So no matter what, running a company, managing a team, or even just trying to optimize your own day.
There's something here for everyone.
And get this, companies are hemorrhaging money because of inefficiency. Like an unbelievable amount.
Yeah, it's a big problem.
But luckily, there are ways to combat it. And that's where you come in, right? You might get a little excited about the detail.
Well, I do find it all quite fascinating.
I can tell. But that's what makes you the perfect expert. So, first up, process optimization.
The foundation.
The document starts with this value stream mapping. You literally map out every single step.
Every little thing you do in your work process.
And it's visual, too.
Oh, yeah. It helps you see those bottlenecks,
Mm-hmm.
the things that slow you down. You'd be surprised what you find.
It's like cleaning out a drawer. You find junk you didn't even know was there.
Exactly. And speaking of cleaning out clutter, that's a good segue to lean management.
Spring cleaning for your business.
That's it. Streamlining processes, getting rid of waste. Everywhere.
I've heard companies using lean can really cut down on production time. Any cool examples come to mind?
Well, Toyota's a classic. They used lean principles to change car production lines, went from a full day
Wow.
to just minutes.
Minutes. That's wild. Okay, moving on. Six Sigma. I always think precision, no errors.
Yeah, that's the common perception.
But this document frames it differently. It's about consistency.
That's a good way to put it.
So not just being perfect, but being perfect every time.
Like baking a cake, you want it perfect every time, right? So each ingredient has to be exact, each step followed to the letter.
So businesses using Six Sigma, they're aiming for the perfect cake scenario for their products or services.
Exactly. Less variation in each step, consistent quality, fewer defects, and boom, efficiency goes up.
All right, last one in this section, business process reengineering. Sounds intense. And the document even says it's not for everyone.
It's not just tweaking things, it's a complete overhaul, hitting the reset button on your operations.
So only if things are really bad.
Well, some companies use it for big improvements even when things aren't going wrong, per se. But it's a big undertaking. There are risks.
Like a full house renovation versus just painting a few rooms.
That's a great analogy. Big potential, but much more disruptive. Okay, moving on from core processes.
Let's talk tech.
Automation and technology integration, my favorite section.
Robots are coming.
Well, not quite taking over everything, but robotic process automation is changing things. Imagine your digital workforce taking care of all those repetitive, boring tasks.
Robots doing data entry, filing, sounds like a dream come true. But does that mean jobs lost?
It's a concern, but RPA isn't about replacing humans entirely. It's freeing them up from those boring tasks so they can do more creative, strategic work.
Makes sense. So RPA is automating tasks. But artificial intelligence and machine learning, AML, that's a step beyond, right?
It's like having a superpowered assistant. They can analyze huge amounts of data, see patterns, make predictions, all to help you make better decisions.
So they don't just do what we tell them, they learn, get smarter over time.
Exactly. Tons of possibilities for businesses. But to manage all this data, make sure departments can talk to each other. We need something like an enterprise resource planning system, or ERP.
That's what the document calls the central nervous system, right? Connecting everything.
Precisely. All the core functions, finance, HR, inventory, customer relationship management, all in one system. No more data silos. Information doesn't get lost.
So one source of truth for the whole organization. Can't forget about the cloud.
The cloud.
This document has a good analogy. Cloud computing is like renting a house versus owning one. All the benefits, none of the headaches.
Flexibility, scalability. You pay for what you use, scale up or down as needed.
No leaky roofs to fix. But seriously, cloud computing has been huge.
Game changer. Accessibility, affordability, agility. Okay, now that we've talked about internal stuff in tech, let's zoom out. Supply chain optimization.
Let's get logistical.
This starts with just-in-time inventory, or JIT. It's all about timing.
Like getting the food to a party right as the guests arrive?
Exactly. Materials and products arrive only when you need them. Less storage, less waste. But it takes a lot of coordination, trust with your suppliers.
So supplier relationships matter.
Big time. This document emphasizes building strong partnerships. Almost like friendships.
Open communication, that sort of thing.
Oh yeah, shared goals, respect. You're basically teammates.
And speaking of teamwork, logistics and distribution, I always think of those war movie maps, arrows, and troop movements.
It can be complex. but we've got technology to help. Optimizing routes, tracking shipments, making sure everything gets where it needs to be efficiently.
I can imagine the chaos if it wasn't planned out.
One misstep, and you have delays, higher costs, unhappy customers. The last piece of the puzzle, and this one's often debated, is outsourcing and offshoring. Document mentions pros and cons, but not really the ethical stuff.
Like companies outsourcing to save money, but maybe the working conditions aren't great.
It's complicated. On the one hand, reducing costs, getting specialized skills, but you got to think about local jobs and making sure everyone in the supply chain is treated ethically.
Definitely not a decision to be made lightly. Okay, let's shift gears. The heart of any organization, it's people.
Employee training and engagement. Investing in your workforce, helping them contribute their best.
Cross-training is first up. Makes me think of actors with understudies.
Same idea. Training people do multiple roles, more flexibility, resilience. Plus, it helps employees develop professionally.
A backup plan and a way to keep people engaged. Win-win. The document also talks about employee empowerment. I've always thought that was key.
Oh, absolutely. Empowered employees feel ownership, responsibility. They're more engaged, motivated, innovative. Good for the whole organization.
It's about making them feel valued, trusted to make decisions.
Exactly. Shifting away from that top-down style, making it more collaborative. But we need to measure how this is all working, right? That's where performance metrics come in, like fitness trackers, but for your business.
Love that analogy. Tracking progress, seeing what to improve, making decisions based on data.
You got it. Clear goals, track key performance indicators. You can monitor progress and adjust as needed. Optimize efficiency.
So not just working hard, but working smart.
Exactly. Using data to guide you. And speaking of data, let's talk about...
Tell me, energy and resources.
You got it. Energy and resource management. I think we can both agree, sustainability is essential for any responsible business now.
Not just a nice to have, but a must have.
And it's good for the planet and for your bottom line.
Double win.
This document lists so many sustainability practices: reducing waste, recycling, eco-friendly products, shrinking that carbon footprint. It's quite comprehensive.
It's more than just a few initiatives here and there. It's about making sustainability part of everything you do.
And building a culture of environmental responsibility.
Think globally, act locally, right? Small changes can add up.
Exactly. Now, we've talked about using less energy, but there's also energy efficiency.
So not just less energy, but using it better.
Right, like getting more miles per gallon from your car. The document talks about upgrading to more efficient appliances and equipment using smart thermostats.
Oh, and designing buildings to make the most of natural light.
That too. It's amazing how much technology can help us track energy usage and see where we can improve.
And those upgrades often pay for themselves with lower energy bills.
That's right. But efficiency isn't everything. We also have to talk about water and waste management.
Conserving water's so important, especially with droughts happening everywhere.
It's a global issue. Businesses have to do their part, fixing leaks, low-flow toilets and faucets, even using plants that don't need much water. Simple things can make a difference.
And what about waste? It feels like businesses produce so much of it.
Packaging, office supplies, it's a challenge. But there are solutions. Recycling is a good start, but the document also talks about composting food scraps, reusable containers.
And working with suppliers who care about sustainable packaging.
Right, reducing waste at every step. It takes a shift in mindset and some creativity. So I think we've covered a lot in this first part of our deep dive.
We have process optimization, technology, supply chain, even touching on sustainability. It's a lot to take in.
And we're just getting started. There's so much more to explore.
Stick with us for part 2, folks, where we'll go even deeper into these ideas. More strategies to help you work smarter, not harder.
We'll be right back. Data's great, but it's not the whole story, right? Even the fanciest algorithms can't replace good old-fashioned human interaction.
You're right. We got to talk about communication, collaboration, streamlining communication and collaboration. Even I struggle with that sometimes.
We all do. It's about finding the right tools, the right strategies, making sure everyone's in the loop, information's flowing smoothly. This document talks about Slack, Microsoft Teams. They're pretty much essential now, especially with so many people working remotely or hybrid.
Yeah, I've seen how those tools can really change the game, keep everyone connected, but they can be a bit much if you're not careful.
It's about balance, I guess. Using them to actually communicate better, not just adding more noise. Setting some ground rules helps, like when to use what tool.
Like having traffic laws for your virtual workspace. Love it. But even with the best tools, you need a good reporting structure. This document compares it to a well-organized library. Everyone knows where to find what they need.
Exactly. If everyone knows their role, their responsibilities, who they report to, no confusion, decisions get made faster, and nothing gets missed.
Order, accountability, makes sense.
Yeah.
But we can't forget about communicating outside the organization. Client communication. Not just answering questions, but building actual relationships, exceeding expectations.
Like those places you keep going back to. Not just because the product's good, but because you feel valued, understood.
Yeah, like that coffee shop where they know your order. Little things go a long way. Speaking of leveraging expertise, what about outsourcing non-core activities? The document says it's a good way to streamline, focus on your strengths.
It's knowing what you're good at and what you're not. Sometimes it's just better to outsource those tasks to someone who's a pro.
Like hiring a professional photographer for your website,
Right.
right? Instead of trying to do it yourself and ending up with blurry photos.
Exactly. You get access to more talent, more expertise, frees up your internal team to focus on what they do best. Strategic outsourcing can be a real game changer.
All right, let's switch gears again. Agile methodology. To me, Agile is all about being flexible, the opposite of rigid and bureaucratic.
You got it. It's about embracing change, moving quickly, delivering value in stages. The document uses a great analogy. It's like navigating a winding river. You got to adjust course to avoid obstacles and reach your destination. I like that. Being nimble, responsive. Not stuck with some rigid plan that might be outdated tomorrow.
So true. Agile is all about collaboration, constant feedback, adapting to change. Great for those complex projects where things are always in flux. Speaking of which, I've heard a lot about the Scrum framework. It's a way to put Agile principles into action, right? The document describes it as a team working together, short bursts, focused on a goal.
Perfect analogy. You break down big projects into smaller sprints, have daily meetings to check progress and address any roadblocks.
Teamwork, accountability, but still flexible. Cool. Now, no matter how agile you are, you got to keep track of the money. Cost control and budget management, I know, not the most exciting topic.
Doesn't have to be scary. Just find the right systems and tools that work for you, make it part of your routine. Cost tracking is just about knowing where your money goes, where you can cut back, optimize spending.
I tried one of those budgeting apps once. It was kind of shocking to see where all my money went.
They can be really helpful. You get a clear picture. The document also talks about zero-based budgeting. It's a different way of thinking about budgeting.
How is it different?
Instead of just tweaking last year's budget, you start fresh each year. Every expense has to be justified. It's more rigorous, makes you really think about your spending.
A fresh start for your budget, making sure everything aligns with your current goals. I like it.
Exactly. It can really help cut unnecessary spending, make sure your resources are being used wisely. Okay, we've talked about internal stuff, finances, but we can't forget about the most important piece, customer-centric approach.
Right. Without happy customers, there's no business. This section starts with customer feedback. I've learned to really appreciate it, even the negative stuff.
It's easy to get defensive, but negative feedback can actually help you grow. Like restaurant reviews, right? You want to know what the diners think so you can improve?
It's about listening to your customers and using that feedback to make things better.
Exactly. And don't just focus on the negative stuff. Appreciate the positive feedback too.
Yeah, that's easy to forget sometimes. Okay, last one in this section. Customer segmentation. I always found this interesting. Not all customers are the same, so you have to adapt your approach.
Like that clothing store with different sections for men, women, and kids, each section is tailored to that specific customer.
Understanding your audience. Creating marketing that speaks to them.
Exactly. You can make more targeted campaigns, keep customers happy, and ultimately sell more.
So we've covered a lot here. It's pretty clear that operational efficiency, it's not just one thing.
It's a lot of moving parts. Processes, technology, employees, customers, sustainability, it all comes together to build a better business.
And it never ends, right? Things are always changing, best practices evolve. What works today might not work tomorrow.
So never stop learning, never stop trying to improve. Even small changes can have a big impact.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Take what you've learned here and put it into practice. You'll be amazed by the results. That about wraps it up for this part of our deep dive. We've covered a ton of ground. Hope our listeners have picked up some great strategies to help them work smarter, not harder.
Mission accomplished, I'd say. But we're not done yet. In the next part, we'll talk about the big picture of operational efficiency, what it all means in today's world.
Okay, we're back. ready to wrap up this deep dive into operational efficiency. We've covered so much ground streamlining processes, empowering those employees, everything in between.
It's been a whirlwind.
Mhm.
But before we let our listeners loose to conquer the world of efficiency, there's one more big piece: energy and resource management.
Can't forget about the planet. This document is really big on sustainability.
And it's not just about being, eco-friendly. It makes good business sense, too. Sustainability can actually save companies money. Not to mention, it's good for their image.
Totally. Customers care about that stuff more and more these days. They want to support businesses that share their values.
Exactly. And there are so many things businesses can do. This document mentions reducing energy use, cutting down on waste, using eco-friendly products, shrinking that carbon footprint, the whole 9 yards.
It can be a little overwhelming though, right? Like, where do you even start?
I think the key is starting small. Focus on making little changes here and there. Even something as simple as switching to LED light bulbs or starting a recycling program. Those things add up.
Baby steps leading to big results, kind of like building a habit, I guess. Once those small changes become part of your everyday routine, it's easier to take on those bigger sustainability projects.
That's it. And when you start seeing the positive impact both on your bottom line and on the environment, it just motivates you to do even more. It's a win-win.
Absolutely. So we've talked about using less energy, but the document also talks about energy efficiency. What's the difference?
It's about making the most of every unit of energy you do use. Think about it like getting better gas mileage with your car.
So not just using less, but using it smarter.
Right. There are a lot of ways to do that. Upgrading to more energy-efficient equipment, using smart thermostats, designing buildings that take advantage of natural light.
Technology's come a long way. It's amazing what we can do now to track energy use and figure out where we can improve.
Absolutely. And a lot of times, investing in energy efficiency actually pays for itself over time because you're spending less on your energy bills. Of course, we can't forget about the other side of the coin: water and waste management.
Water conservation is huge these days, especially with droughts happening all over the place.
It's a worldwide problem, and businesses need to step up. Simple things like fixing leaks, installing low-flow toilets and faucets, even using plants that don't need a lot of water can make a big difference.
Makes sense. What about all the waste businesses generate? Packaging, office supplies.
It's a real challenge. Recycling is important, but this document goes further. Composting food scraps, using reusable containers, working with suppliers who use sustainable packaging. It's about getting creative.
Reducing waste at every step of the way.
Exactly. It takes a change in how we think about things, a commitment to finding solutions. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm really struck by how connected all of these concepts are.
It's not just a list of random tips and tricks, it's a whole new way of approaching business. Process optimization, technology, empowering your employees, focusing on the customer, sustainability. It all works together to create a more efficient, effective, and responsible organization.
And it's a journey, not a destination, right?
Mm.
The business world is constantly changing, and so are the best practices for operational efficiency. What works today might be outdated tomorrow.
True. So keep learning, keep experimenting. Don't be afraid to try new things. Even small improvements can make a big difference in the long run.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Take everything you've learned here and start applying it in your own work, your own business. You might be surprised by what you can achieve.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into operational efficiency. It's been quite a journey. Hope our listeners got some great ideas to help them work smarter, not harder.
I think it's safe to say mission accomplished. Until next time, keep those efficiency engines running. Remember, striving for operational excellence, it's a continuous process.